I'm Audrey Kays. I was a senior this year and will be graduating this week. My main events are the 300 hurdles and relays, with the 200 occasionally.
Yes.
And I'll be going to Boise State to run track and field in the fall.
Audrey, welcome to the Smile podcast. We are in the Mission Viejo girls weight room, and this is kind of where all the off-season magic happens. First off, congratulations on an incredible season and incredible 4 years, and I'm just so excited to chat. Audrey Kays, this girl is incredible, and she's got big things coming her way in the future and has accomplished so much. I do want to start with the big one, which is your latest PR, which was
43.99.
43.99 in the 300 hurdles. And I think there was just such a cool moment. I was watching the video that your mom sent. At the end, when you saw your time, I saw your reaction, and you literally jumped for joy. What was going through your head?
I was just so happy not to see a 44.
Yeah. Yes. So how did you feel at the end of the race? Were you happy with the race, in general?
Overall, I think I was very happy. There were still things to work on, but for it being the last race and beating out the SM girl at the very end, I'm happy.
Yes, because that was the girl that beat you out at CIF finals, and then just to kind of battle it out at the end was really fun, because that's kind of where it mattered most there. Let's take it back to the beginning. When and how did you first get into track and field?
I was really excited to try track and field in middle school, and then COVID hit, and so the fact that I didn't get to try it in middle school, I was really I can't wait for high school where I can actually try all the events that I've wanted to try.
Yeah, that's how I got introduced as well, as those middle school track meets, because there aren't a lot of, I guess club track isn't as big of a thing here. Those middle school teachers, they do a good intro. I remember you coming in to our summer camp, and it was just so exciting to get this girl that was so fast. Just from the start, we're all right, this girl's gonna do big things. My next question is, what led you to become a hurdler specifically, and were the hurdles love at first sight?
I don't even know how I started hurdles. It was just after freshman year, doctor was try hurdles, see what happens or whatever. And I just remember not being scared to go over the hurdle, and I feel that's the biggest step in doing the hurdles.
Yeah.
I feel it was kind of comfortable.
Totally. And I mean, I'm biased as the hurdle coach. I want everybody to come over. But when the other coaches were willing to share you after your freshman year, I was so excited, because you do need speed to be good at hurdles. And so they're all right, let's get this girl over some hurdles. And for me, it was love at first sight as a coach, watching you being so good at it. So that was awesome. And you made an incredible hurdler. You've also been so versatile, running so many different events. So the 100, 300 hurdles, 200, 400 relays. How do you mentally and physically prepare to compete in so many different events?
I think it's fun, just taking it one step at a time, and for practices, having days where you just focus on one thing, or even when you have to switch in between different events, practice wise. I think it's fun. There's so much going on that you don't have time to think about oh, this is going to be hard or anything like that.
Yeah, which is probably a good break, because our practices are pretty tough. And out of all of those events, which one has been your favorite? And you don't have to say the hurdle just because your hurdle coach is here. That's okay.
Definitely the 300 hurdles.
Okay.
I think that's the most fun.
Love it. What do you think is fun about it? You guys hear me talk about how much I love the 300 hurdles, but what is fun about it for you? And speaking to future hurdlers.
I like that having the hurdles versus running a 400 or something like that. You have checkpoints, so it doesn't feel mentally as hard, because you're too focused on just getting to the next hurdle. And then compared to the 100 hurdles, I like that there's room to speed up and sprint in between the hurdles, but also having a rhythm compared to other events. It's you don't really think too much, which sounds weird, because you have to actually jump over stuff, but it's mentally easier, I feel like.
Right. Yeah, I agree. It's hard to explain, but it is fun, because you're just focused on one hurdle at a time and gives you something to do in such a long distance, which I think you'll really come to love when you start running the 400 hurdles over the open floor, because I would take the 400 hurdles any day. Let's talk about some of your growth and maybe some setbacks. So junior year was kind of when you just like exploded. Like you started hurdling as a sophomore, which is technically late compared to other hurdlers. Junior was really big. You made Mount Sac relays, and there you had this huge PR dropping down into the low 44s, and we were so excited. And then what do you think clicked last year to kind of make those things start to come together with the hurdles for you to be running that fast?
Yeah, I think it was, I don't know, just like really focusing on the hurdle form and also running 100 hurdles and practicing that. My form got better so that it was easier to actually jump over the hurdles in the 300 race.
Yes, totally. Because the 100 hurdles wasn't necessarily your favorite, which I can relate to as well. And granted, she was really good at the 100 hurdles as well, but she had all these other events. I did start to see that click too when you got faster. And so last year as coaches, so after that big PR at Mount Sac, which is one of the biggest meets you can compete in here in Southern California during the season, we kind of redlined in a way as far as training, because we had you doing so much. Yeah, so we were like, all right, next year we're gonna make some changes. So next thing is early into your senior season, things weren't quite going how you wanted them to, or the way that you had hoped. And so what was going on, like mentally or physically for you during the beginning of the season?
I think the beginning of the season, I just wasn't getting the strides I need in between the hurdles, which was just hard, because then it makes you a lot more tired when you're having to slow down to jump over the hurdles and stuff like that. That I just had to keep thinking to trust the process and stuff, like Dar says all the time, that the training will kick in, which also not running the times I wanted at Arcadia and Mount Sac, I had to keep reminding myself that because I did that last year and ended up burning out, it was a good thing that I wasn't running those times yet.
Right. I could see the frustration during the season, and some of these meets were held way earlier. It is hard to be not running those times and being where you like want to be at those big premier events to kind of show off your skills. So after Arcadia and Mount Sac, which you got to finally run at Arcadia this year, which was tell me about your experience with Arcadia. Was it all that it was cracked up to be? Like the event itself?
Yes and no. It was strange because the track feels smaller there for some reason. I don't know if it's like the shape of the track or something, or it's like a different direction compared to where ours is. It just, I don't know. It feel like it happened so fast that I didn't like fully take it in. And also a weird warm-up field. But overall fun.
Overall fun. Out of the two, I think I know the answer to this, but which one did you like better, Mount Sac or Arcadia?
Mount Sac.
Mount Sac, for sure. Tell a little bit about the atmosphere of Mount Sac.
Mount Sac it's huge. It just feels like you're so small compared to everyone else who's there, because there's like collegiate athletes and professional athletes, that feels like whatever you do, not that it doesn't matter, but it's just like, it's kind of like smaller scale, where if you don't have your perfect race, it doesn't feel like a massive deal, but also it's exciting to run in the same place as these amazing athletes.
Yes, and just to be literally on the warm-up field with some of these professionals. Last year, I had a heart attack when we walked past Sydney McLaughlin, Lebroni, and all of these big names, and it's just inspiring for me as a coach, and I'm sure for you as an athlete. And they have just like a full professional setup, which is really, really cool. And I have you to thank for me being able to get there to experience that. So you had these big 2 meets, and still at that point weren't hitting the times that you wanted, or even the times that we as coaches expected you to be at, because in practice you were hitting these times and things, and everything just wasn't adding up. So let's talk a little bit about the Aliso meet. When we pulled her from the 300 hurdles altogether, and the 100 hurdles and said, all right, one, we need you to score points in these events so we can potentially win this dual meet, but let's give you a mental break from the 300. So tell me a little bit about that day, and you can explain to the viewers a little bit of kind of just how that meet went and what the results were of you running the 400 and the 200.
Yeah, I don't know. That was the least pressure I felt at a meet, which is kind of weird because I was thrown into these random events that I haven't done since freshman year. So I feel like that should have put more pressure on me. But it was just mentally so much easier that I didn't have a time in the 400, so whatever I ran was a PR. Like,
right. So win-win.
Yeah. But also not having to worry about the hurdles, which I'd already been stressing about not hitting the right times and stuff like that, that just getting to run, not thinking about anything was a good mental break.
Yeah, totally. And we could see that. Just see that in your demeanor that day, especially after the results of both of those events. So tell me, like, run me through a little bit of what was going through your mind in the 400. What was that result, and then the same for the 200.
Yeah, in the 400, in my head, I was actually watching my teammate Peyton Rathwick because she's run the event before, and so starting in a lane that was farther back, I could see like where she was after the first 100, and just trying to make sure I like stay with her and then like whip off the curve for the last 100 as fast as I could.
Yeah.
So it was nice to like kind of see what other people were doing since I didn't really know what I was doing.
Yes, which is crazy to think that you haven't run you'd run the 400 and the relay, but the open 4 is so different, I think, mentally, because it's just
I was most worried about the start, just because in a relay, since I'm not the first or second leg, I'm kind of with other people, so I can just go based off how fast they're going in the beginning.
Right.
But just running by myself, I'm like, I don't know how fast I usually go, like at the start.
Yes. Remember your time that you ran?
It was 58 something, like low 58.
Yes, which you finished that race. Coach Daher and we're mentioning Daher a lot. Susie Daher is the sprint coach, and she's a legend here. She came running over to me and she was like, did you just see that? Like, Audrey had just run, I think, was it the fastest time in the league?
Yeah.
So we were just like jaw dropped, because we're like, okay, this girl, like, what the heck? So then we're going, like, she has the speed, like she's going to, we're thinking back to the 300 hurdles going, oh my gosh, I'm like, look at this, like, take the pressure off of this girl's shoulder and she will just run her heart out. So then you have the 400, and then the 200 comes around. Walk us through that one.
Yeah, I was really excited for the 200 because I ran it maybe twice freshman year and hadn't run it since. And when I was running the 200 freshman year, it was against amazing athletes like Emily Saris and Jada Gatlin, where I was just left in the dust.
Right.
So I'm like, I don't really know if my times were good or anything. So I was really excited to see what I could actually run in the 200. And also because the girls who run the 200 at Mission are like amazing and super fun and supportive, that I loved warming up with them and getting ready and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, so the result of that race as well, how did that one end up?
Super exciting. Yeah, I don't remember exactly what the time was. It was like 25.
It was a low
something.
25, almost 25 flat, I think.
Yeah. Because, I think it was like a 25-1 something.
Yes.
Yeah, I was super excited to run that race because coming off the curve, I had so much more speed than I'm used to, because otherwise I would just run a 300 hurdles or a 400 where I'd be coming off a curve. So it was really nice to be able to like still be able to sprint down the straight.
Yes, totally. So the result of that 200 was, I would say, the catalyst for this change for the next few weeks. And so we were able to see you smile again. Like you had such a relief from not having to run the hurdles, and then such success again. We're like, oh my gosh, like there's the Audrey that we know and love, and we loved you. We loved you no matter what. But it was just kind of like, all right, like she's back, and just to kind of get you to run without thinking and have so much pressure on you to be hitting these times and everything, which can get stressful, and just like be free, be free, Audrey.
So especially not hitting the times in the 300 hurdles, I was like, is my training not good? Like, what's going on? But to like get these open times that were fast, I'm like, okay, so all of this is working. It's just the hurdling that we got to lock in.
Yes, totally. And so, so I think that was the moment that kind of like shifted things for you in the season. And so this leads us into league finals, which I think is probably one of the most like exciting and crazy stories, because you really wanted to run that 200 in league finals. And as coaches, we were like having you set to run the 4x1, the 100 hurdles, the 300 hurdles, and the 4x4, which you had a shot at winning. Like, you were one of the fastest hurdlers in the league for the 100 hurdles, the 300 hurdles for sure, and then the 4x4. And so you were not so happy with us when we put you in those events, and after sleepless nights and hours on the phone, and you not talking to us at practice, we both felt like, okay, if Audrey thinks she can do this, like, let's put her in the 200, which for the viewers, the 200 is right after the 300 hurdles. So nobody does that back to back because of just the lactate buildup. Like, you can't run, I shouldn't say can't, because you did, but it's really, really difficult to put those things back to back, because the 300 is such an intense race and the 200 is such an intense race. And we had kind of put other athletes in similar positions in the past. And so we were looking, the 400 and then go run the 100. But there was no one, I don't think ever, we were thinking in the South Coast League, that has ever run the 300 hurdles and the 200. So kind of walk me through that day. You had run the 4x1, and I think you guys did you guys PR there? You had
I think we might have.
Yeah, it was like a good run. And then it was just this long break until the 300 hurdles. So let's walk through prelims first, right? Because that's where all of this was taking place. So walk me through the prelims race for the 300 hurdles, and then we'll get into the 200 and then kind of tell the rest of the story.
So prelims was really strange, not having a relay or any event before the 300 hurdles, which was towards the end of the meet. That it was kind of nice to relax and do a slow warm up, and then for the actual race, I was excited to run against the Tribuco girls. And yeah, it was like I finally felt good over the hurdles, that I was like cleanly going over them, not stuttering or slowing down and stuff like that, that I finally ran a 44.
Yes. So the first 44 since Mount Sac, your junior year. And I'm like blanking on the time. It was a 44.2, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think, it was a PR. So
okay, so she ran 44, I think it was 3.6 or 3.6 at Mount Sac last year. So that's what we were frustrated about, is that you weren't hitting the times that you were getting last year. So then she comes out after we kind of gave her this mental break of not running the hurdles. We're like, Audrey's back. She goes and runs this 44.2 something. And you probably could hear me screaming from the other end of the track, like a lunatic. But it was just like, tell me when you saw that time, what was going through your mind.
I was super excited, because also, since it was prelims, it was just about winning your heat and making sure you qualify and stuff like that to run in finals with a good lane. But I was just like, I didn't believe it. I was like, how did that happen? It just felt good. And like, even after the race, I wasn't like on the floor dying like normally I am, because I was carrying my momentum through the entire race instead of slowing down and speeding up and slowing down and speeding up. That like it just felt good.
Yes, it was an incredible race, and we were just like, she's back, because we were concerned, and I spent a lot of time. I think that whole process has really, you've made me a better coach, because I had to dig in so deep into split times, over each hurdle and how fast you were getting to the first hurdle. And so I think it was at Arcadia that I was like, hey, if you can knock off 0.2 seconds off of each hurdle and just really broke it down, I think it can just be really overwhelming to be like, oh, I need to drop a whole second. But you did, everything just finally clicked with that race. And that's kind of what we were saying is like, once we combined the speed with the flow of the hurdles. And so you got into this range of low 44s. And I was like, okay, like not all is lost. We are back. We're good. Okay. So then in limbs, you had to go straight into the 200. So that was like, you didn't have the relays that day. So it was just those two. And you made it to finals. I just want to jump to finals because that's where the juicy part is. And so I think some of the other coaches, thought it was a joke that we put you in both of the 300 hurdles and the 200. They didn't really expect you to do that. And then you came out, you killed it in prelims, made the final. And I think you were at the time, the second, by 0.0 something, the second fastest in the league after that Aliso meet. And we're going, what the heck? This girl could literally win in 6 different events. You made the finals. Let's get to finals day. You guys run the 4x1. You guys snagged third place because you made CIF. I was just like, wait a minute. You guys did it. You had a really good race. So top 3 in that race, making CIF for that, a little break. You have the 300 hurdles. Tell me a little bit about that race, because earlier in the season, there was a few other girls that were running similar times to your PR, maybe I think a little bit. Tell me what it was like running against the Tribuco girls versus the dual meet during the season, and just kind of how that race felt and went for you.
I think that league finals was a lot more pressure just because I was the league champion last year. There's no way senior year I'm not going to be league champion in my favorite event.
Right.
I wanted to win it so bad, and getting to run against girls that are also going to be running 44s, I was super excited to push myself and PR and get to CIF and all that stuff. It felt good, not as fast as prelims,
right,
but still not feeling as good and running a good time. I was like, I have so much more I can still do. Even though it wasn't a PR or anything like that, it still felt just as positive and exciting as prelims.
It was again in that 44 range, and that day you had a lot on your plate, and so you get done with the 300 hurdles. You barely have time to even stand on the podium to get recognized for being South Coast League champion. And we're like, all right, no time for cheering. We got to get you set. So tell me what was going through your mind before that 200 race.
There wasn't a lot of time to think. It was just about getting as much of the lactic acid out of my legs as possible and getting over to my blocks, because it was literally just the boys' 300 hurdles and then us.
Yes.
There wasn't too much thinking time, but just making sure I was as ready as possible, trying to manage my breathing so I could breathe during the 200 and just hoping that my legs will be able to run quickly enough to place.
Yeah. So you get on the line, and I think Coach Daher and I were about to literally have a panic attack. So tell me about the 200. What was going through your mind before, during, and after?
Yeah. I think I was the most worried about the 200 when we first got on our blocks and they made us get back up because somebody's block slipped or something like that. And I was like I was out of breath standing up out of the blocks. I was like, oh no, am I not going to be able to breathe during this 200? What's going to happen and stuff like that. But I think the adrenaline and anticipation and excitement just kicked in, that it felt good. In the first 100, I wasn't sure how quickly I was really going to be able to sprint on tired legs. So I was just trying to keep with the group and people in front of me.
Right.
And then big leg and arm drive as much as I could coming home. And I was surprised that I didn't feel as tired as I expected. By the last 20 meters, my legs definitely felt it. But through the rest of the race, I was like, I can still run. It's all right. It's not as horrible as I was expecting. And then ended up getting first place, which was exciting. And I PR'd.
Yes.
Got 25:05, I think.
Yeah.
So that was even more exciting that I just ran a 200 after running a 300 hurdles and I PR'd.
Yes. Yes. And at that point, once again, I'm screaming like a lunatic going, oh my gosh, this girl is out of her mind. And just the comments from the other coaches, because they were like, everyone was coming up to us beforehand going, really? She's doing both of these races? And we're like, she really wants to. We're actually not sure how this is going to go. And just like a cool moment to like prove us wrong, you know, and just knew that you had just accomplished something that literally nobody else had done before. You know, I know that you had been shooting for the school record and things like that in the 300 hurdles, but I think you actually accomplished so much more. Everyone's jaws were on the floor and oh my gosh, like this is insane. This girl just won the 300 hurdles, came back, ran the 200 in a super competitive time, won it, and so you get recognized on the podium for that. And then we're still not done, right? Yeah. And so, so then we're gearing up for the 4x400 relay. We had some things go on in between, some little chats that were happening between coaches. And we should just name it. The Tribuco coach was talking to our head coach and had made comments that it was, you know, it was a good thing that we had put you in these other events because our 4x4 was no good, for lack of better terms. And it's like totally rubbed us the wrong way as coaches. And we're like, oh my gosh, I was like, where's Audrey? We need to tell Audrey, this is crazy. And so first off, when we told you that, how did that make you feel?
Oh, a little bit shocked that a coach would say that in the like first reaction, but also even more excited that I was already so excited after those first 3 events that I was like, I can do this. I can run this 4x4. And now this just gave me more like drive to want to race them so badly.
Yes. So we're getting ready, and yeah, that anticipation was just crazy. And so I headed out to my usual spot where the scoreboard is, where that last 150 is, because I loved when people were there cheering for me, running the 4x4. And so I couldn't really see what was going on at like the start line, because I know there was a little drama that was going on during the race. So the teams were Tribuco, us, St. Clemente, Aliso, and Tesoro. And so from like out of the gate, it was pretty much us and Tribuco. Their 4x4 team was pretty stacked. So the baton's going around. And at what point did the fumble happen?
The first handoff.
The first handoff. Yeah. Okay, so Tribuco drops the baton?
Yeah.
Drops the baton. So there's a fumble there, and that gave Sarah Grossweiler. So then, you know, Sarah's taking off, then Tribuco has to pick up. And it was still like neck and neck, because they've got some really good competitive 400 runners. Third leg goes around, and we were behind at that point. I'm like trying to remember.
They were pretty even, like when I was going to get the baton, they were pretty even coming in, but then their handoff was a lot better than ours.
Okay, so they kind of took off.
Yeah.
I couldn't see anything that was going on. So I'm watching you come around behind her by a few, like, I don't know, maybe 10 meters or so, maybe more.
Yeah, I think it was about 20 meters, like coming off the first curve.
Yes.
And then had closed it a bit to like closer to 10, what you were saying at the second curve.
Yes. So as you were coming around, and us as coaches were like, we had faith in you, but we also knew that you had the 300 and the 200 were like, okay, hopefully she's gonna make it through. And we knowingly told you about this little conversation we had with the other coach as more fuel. But I just like will never forget the look on your face as I'm like standing there on that last curve as you guys come through, and just there to like potentially say like, hold off, don't pass her, like waiting for something. The look on your face and your eyes, you were starting to like speed up, and I was like, it's game over. Like this girl's got this. And so I just watched her go past, and there at Tribuco, I was just like right by you guys. It was just the coolest thing. Usually I'm screaming things like, she's slowing down, you know, something to motivate them. And so Audrey just took off, just the battle to the finish, past this girl. I mean, I think you passed her. Like I said, I couldn't see much because everyone was jumping around.
I passed
around
her.
The 50.
Yeah, coming off the curve.
Yes.
I passed her.
And then
and then gapped her a little bit.
You sure did. And
but
so
I just remember like the last 100, like as I was dying, the last 50, I actually felt like I couldn't tell if I was running or walking or hopping. Like I just knew I was kind of moving forward, but it just like peripheral vision, it just felt like the entire like last 100 was all like blue and gray, like Tribuco. And I was just like, where are our girls? What's going on? But then also like, well, I'm beating her in front of all of her teammates cheering her on and stuff like that.
Yes, because Tribuco had lined the last 100, and so we're all, all the other schools mixed in there as well. I'm like running back down to the finish line. It just really felt like we had won the meet because that was unexpected, and to just kind of prove these other coaches wrong, to go, don't underestimate Audrey Kays. She can do all these races back to back, and just a testament to the training, the hard workouts that you have done, because we do those hard workouts like back to back. And I just like remember coming over, you are like almost passed out on the floor. I think you guys are always laying down on the ground, but I was actually a little concerned for you. So what was going through your mind as you finished and as you're like literally trying to just stay alive?
I was just thinking, okay, get my sticker off so that it doesn't stay on my shorts, and then lay down as quickly as possible. And then I just like closed my eyes, and I opened my eyes, and it's just like faces, like all these people just surrounding me as I'm laying on the floor. And I'm like kind of seeing them, but also like I can't really tell who's who, just like kind of
like all of our teammates. And I have a video of it, so maybe I'll clip that in to give people a reference. So Audrey seriously had like 10 of our mission girls surrounding her and just cheering her, and and I'm like running down the field screaming things, and it was just such an exciting moment, because when you win that 4x4, it really does make it feel like you win the meet. And even though we didn't win league or anything like that, I feel like that was just the crowning moment. Like as coaches, we were just like in awe of everything that you accomplished that day. And so once you kind of like came to what was going through your mind about finishing such an incredible day, winning South Coast League and 3 events.
Yeah, I was just super excited and a little bit relieved, because initial thoughts when Daher first told me that I was running the 200 instead of the 100 hurdles, I was like, well, this is real now. Like, well, I can't mess up now. Like, I have to actually do this. Otherwise, it'll be I should have done the 100 hurdles. So I was super excited, and to go up to Daher and be like, well, we all saw what happened.
It worked out. And because that's right, because we had practiced like the day before going into, we were practicing the 100 hurdles, getting you ready for that. And then we had last minute, seriously with like 20 minutes left to make that change. We did. And thank goodness we did. Like what an incredible result. And I think the pressure was off of you for the 100 hurdles. And I think that was just the best decision. Even though you were like still one of the top 100 hurdlers in the league.
It was super fun. I was like super happy with how it all ended. And also having all those back to back, not having time to like think too much about it. But also after the success of the 300 hurdles and the 200, then going into the 4x4, where we're not always the most positive group when it comes to the 4x4. Having some positive energy already, it felt good to help the team feel better that like we can do this. We're going to qualify for CIF and all that.
Totally, and you guys did, and I can't remember if that was a PR for you guys.
I think it was.
Yeah, I think it was a pretty decent PR. I think between everyone that was running the 4x4, we had dropped like 10 seconds from where we started in the season to the beginning, because all these girls kept dropping their times, and we would rotate through who was running. So that is, oh my gosh, that's incredible. So I think we'll get into CIF, but like what are some of the things, like I just want to hear about kind of what motivates you a little bit to kind of like keep pushing through these like tough practices that we have, and some of these like challenges that we're battling mentally, and how do you like handle that pressure, and what motivates you either in like practice or in a race to
I think in practice it's definitely the like setting goals and like knowing that, okay, well if I finish this rep, then this is just going to help me when I actually get to the race.
Right.
Having something to look towards, like running up in the 43s, like that keeps your mind focused on the end goal, and that the rest is just, you just got to kind of get through it.
Yes, because track is not necessarily fun. Like hardly, I mean, I think the meets are fun, but I think it's something that until you experience like working as hard as you did, the training is so hard and it's not necessarily fun. And so being able to kind of like handle that, being motivated, you have to have that end goal, because it's like, why am I literally killing myself every day in practice? And then when you have those moments in races, it just kind of makes it all worth it. So
that's what makes the relays super fun too, that it's like, okay, well, even if I'm not super excited to do this, I want to do it for my teammates and help them. Like we had a sophomore and a freshman, like help them get to CIF, because like I remember when I went there as a relay team, like it's just such a cool experience, and to do it with your friends that you've suffered these workouts with.
I really love that. Going along with that, are there any race like rituals that you had or routines that would like help you stay focused? What are some of the things that you would do during a meet to kind of just get in the zone?
I don't know. Like during meets, I like cheering for our teammates and stuff like that is really fun. Pre-meet stuff, I don't do too much for normal meets. I like to have my hair in a braid. Yes, but yeah, not too many like things I have to do every single time.
Yeah, which that kind of like leads us into preparing. So a typical training week looks different depending on where we're at in this season, but like mid-season, take us through mid-season week would look like.
Yeah, Monday we would have Murder Monday, which are our hardest reps, usually long reps. Definitely the hardest day of the week, but also good that it's the beginning of the week, because then you don't have anything in your legs to like hinder your performance, I guess.
Yes.
And then Tuesday we would also have hard reps, but not as hard as Monday. And usually we'd have some hurdles on Tuesdays. And then Wednesday, pre-meet. So it's just a light shakeout, ice bath, and all the recovery stuff. And then track meet Thursday, another recovery day Friday to get ready for Saturday, along with any like block starts you needed to clean up after the track meet. And then Saturday's invitational.
And then Sunday rest day and back at it again on Monday. So it's pretty hard. Sometimes injuries and things will creep up. What did your recovery routine look like, especially with such a heavy event load? Tell us about maybe some of the aches and pains that you were dealing with, and how do you manage those during season?
Yeah, lots and lots of rolling out the knots and all that stuff. Wearing shin sleeves as much as you can for every workout and race. And then also seeing like a physical therapist to help really stretch you out and adjust your hips or whatever you need, especially as a hurdler. So
you were very, very diligent about going into physical therapy. We found a PT that was a track guy, which was great. It took a load off of my shoulders, because usually I'm here till 8 o'clock working on you guys, which I love. We had lots of talks about nutrition and sleep and those extra elements. And I think everything all came together. You also played flag football this year. So how do you think kind of that cross training, like I guess like mentally and physically, like how was that for you this year doing flag football and then going back into track?
I think this year was a lot better than junior year, because junior year I did flag football in the fall and also the fall track camp, which I feel like played into my burning out at the end of track season. So I was just doing way too much in the fall. Yeah. Because the fall workouts are still super hard for track. Yes. And then also doing flag football was kind of too much. So this year, only doing flag football in the fall really helped, like a mental break from track, but then also like you're still working out. It's definitely not the same as track and field. Yeah. But it was good coming in more fresh to actual preseason for track.
Yeah, totally. And love that. And you had a great season with flag football. I believe you were invited to play on all these like fun teams, and so so I bet that was just a fun break to have. You know, I had heard you'd play flag football when you were younger, and it's just like such an awesome new sport. And once Audrey got the ball, nobody could catch her, and it was just so fun to watch you in that. So okay, so after prelims, you had qualified for CIF in all 4 events. So in California, it's quite the journey to get to the state meet, whereas other states, they just hit a qualifying time and get to go to the state meet. It's not like that here. You have to hit a certain place or a certain time at these specific meets leading up to the prestigious state meet. So CIF prelims, it is separated into divisions. So Division 3, we were at Yorba Linda High School on a weekend where it was 100 degrees on the track and the turf. It's usually 10 degrees, even hotter than that. So you guys had run the 4x1. And then the 100 hurdle girls were sitting in the clerk of the course, and they shut the meet down. Long story short, we had to wait like 3.5 hours till they started again around like 5 o'clock. People were false starting because the track was so hot you couldn't even put your hands down. Like it was crazy. What was going through your mind that day on like when we finally got to run the 300? How did you kind of like mentally and physically get yourself to just get through that race?
Yeah. Well, I knew at least kind of the same as league is that it was prelim, so it's about qualifying, and I was second, I believe, like in our division.
Yes.
So just making sure that I win my heat and like manage the race. So there was a little bit less pressure, knowing that like, okay, if I don't have my best race, like I just need to at least beat the people in the race.
Right.
And also with it being super hot, and I'm not a very big fan of the heat. And then I also had a cold that weekend, so I was sick and not able to breathe very well. But yeah, just thinking about, okay, just worry about the other girls, kind of.
Yeah.
Just making sure that you just win your race. That's all you need to do. I don't need a PR today. Just qualify.
Yes. Everybody was kind of thrown off. Even you and the top girl both ran times that weren't your best, but if you win your heat, then you're an auto qual. In the 4x4, actually, though, we had 2 of you guys that were there all day in the chaos of the heat, and then 2 other girls that came in. You guys wound up getting a big PR in the 4x4, running under 4 minutes, which was big. Like I said, we started 4 minutes 10 seconds and got dropped all of that time off. I'm sure you guys were exhausted, and so once again, you dropped the 200 at that point. That was the other
decided
thing.
not to run that to make sure that our 4x4 team could run the best time to qualify.
Yes, which was an amazing captain and teammate thing to do. And so next week, which was CIF finals, you just had the 300 hurdles in the 4x4. Now, I mean, that day was like kind of like rainy almost and cold in the morning. So the temperature had shifted. We were all the way up at Moore Park High School. CIF finals is the top 9 out of everybody in division. Last year, you were a podium as a junior for the 300 hurdles at CIF, which is huge. And so you're slated to be second. What was going through your head, and run me through that race?
I think that was the most nervous I've probably been before a 300 hurdle race, just knowing that there are so many girls that are running 44s, which is what I've run, and also making sure that like I actually need to fight to like get on the podium and hopefully qualify for Masters. But also being in lane 2, which we've been in a lot of the lower lanes on the inside of the track throughout the season. So it was good to have that practice earlier in the year, that it wasn't as scary, especially being in lane 2 instead of lane 1.
Yeah.
That it wasn't as bad as I was expecting.
Yeah.
But it was more of the pre-race like jitters that was the difference compared to all the other meets.
A little bit of a different pressure going into it now that you're like, okay, these other girls can run, just as fast as me. But that race, it was you and the girl from Santa Margarita, Olivia Smythe, I believe. So you were like battling not too many people right next to you, but then the girl in lane, girl in lane 7. So as you're coming through that home stretch, because you had a really good first section of the race, what was going through your head? Were you able to see her and what was going on?
Yeah, definitely. The last hurdle on the curve coming off into the straight, I could see that she was in front of me. Like, we were so close, but she was definitely in front of me. That after that hurdle, I was trying as hard as I could to make the gap and like get closer. That I had a good stride to attack the hurdle instead of stuttering, because I was pushing myself really. Yes. And then farther down the straight, I was getting more tired and having to push it a little more to like reach and get over the hurdle. And then the second to last hurdle was a little wild. Saw my life flash before my eyes, but we made it over and got to the finish line second, which I was very happy with because that's where I was seated, and I really wanted to make sure I could at least secure that position.
And I think that strength, like we were working on strides and breaking down each hurdle, going, where can we knock off some time? And you really went for it. You really did. And sometimes when you kind of go for it, it's a gamble, because if you take off too far, you can hit the hurdle. I just saw videos of a girl somersaulting over the finish line. Like, hurdles is wild. And so I was really stoked to see you be able to get that stepping and accelerate through the end. We're like a little nervous, but then after that time, oh my gosh, if she didn't hit that hurdle, that would have been, this time. So you place second in CIF, which is incredible. And then you place 8th overall to get to the next meet, which is the state qualifying meet, which our section is the only one to have this masters meet. In all of the state of California, we're in the most competitive section of CIF. The southern section has always been the most competitive. So it's really hard to make this masters meet. So in the masters meet, they take the top 9 out of all of the divisions. You placed 8, so you were like secured in there. And then this year they actually took an extra 9, so there's top 18, qualified the old-fashioned way, which was great. So that landed you in the fastest heat out of everybody in the southern section. And this one is a state qualifying meet. At practice, we had done some things to adjust your steps, because I had noticed that you were slowing down hurdle 2 and hurdle 3. So we kind of took a gamble. So what was going through your mind, like in those practices that week that we adjusted those steps, and going into the race, what was your mindset into how to execute that race plan?
Yeah, definitely in practices was a push, but also what I needed, because it was frustrating having to like stutter a little bit, knowing that it's like, this is slowing me down and it needs to be smoother and all this stuff, that getting it down multiple times in practice made it a lot easier mentally going in to the weekend. Also, because that week in practice, there was a lot of strong wind, that if I was hitting it in practice into the wind with like adrenaline and hopefully less wind on the weekend, like I should be able to comfortably hit the right leg.
Yeah, and you were hitting those times in practice, but I honestly wasn't sure what was going to happen, because sometimes you would get that 16 step that we had changed from taking 17 steps that makes you switch legs. But if we didn't get that switch back, then you'd have your leg that you don't like as much all the way. So it was this big gamble, but one thing that we got to try. So we had plenty of time to warm up. It was a beautiful, beautiful day at this masters meet at Moore Park. Take me through. We're going back to the big PR here. What do you think like made the biggest difference in the race that day?
Yeah, I was really excited. Mentally, I feel like it was easier because I was out in lane 9, so I'm like, I know I'm not the fastest one here. Mm-hmm. If I'm not fighting the first girls, it's not gonna be like, oh, she's really far behind. It's kind of just the way the stagger is, and what like the times you would expect. So it's less pressure, like taken off, that people aren't necessarily focusing on me out in lane 9.
Right.
But also with like the practices and all that stuff going well, it was exciting.
Let's go through each hurdle and the step patterns, like what was going through your mind during the race.
Yeah. So for the start, we've practiced the like first 8 steps, big steps coming out, to make sure I'm like extending my stride. I was not counting, but like I know about where the steps should be, making sure I'm like really driving, and then hitting that hurdle as quickly as I could, like snapping down, was something we've also practiced a lot of. But I feel like the thing I thought about the most was making sure I extended my stride coming off the first hurdle, because that's where we've really lost a lot of time, which would make me stutter or slow down on the second hurdle, is that I wasn't extending my stride as much as I should. So then when I switched legs, which we were trying to do, also thinking, okay, well, I just switched and I don't want to keep my right leg for the rest of the race. Like I need to go as quickly as I can to switch back to the left at the next hurdle. And then after that, it was not thinking as much really. It was like, okay, well, I did it. We're good. Now we just need to stay strong, get through the race. And then it was the hurdle coming off the curve that the SM girl was on the inside of me. And so I had been kind of behind her. And then that hurdle coming off the curve, she stuttered and slowed down a little bit, and I went through cleanly. And so I was like, that was the girl that just beat me like last weekend. I need to go. I can't let her catch up to me. Like, I need to go as quickly as I can now. And then yeah, just pushed as hard as I can to make sure she stayed behind me.
Yeah, and it was incredible because if there's anything we know about you, it's how competitive you are. And so we both saw that change of pace between when you saw her, you came off a fourth hurdle coming into the fifth hurdle where she stumbled a little bit over the hurdle and you passed her, and we just saw this click. And I have it in the split times. You ran sub 5, and so you actually had sped up and ran a faster split. So we could actually physically see that you sped up, and I don't think I've seen you finish a race with such tired, heavy legs. Okay, so coming full circle to that moment, after you cross the finish line, we see you guys say, hey, good job. Take me through that moment after you cross the finish line.
Yeah.
How are your legs feeling? And then just take us through that moment until like when you actually saw the time that you ran.
Yeah, both like my legs and also my lungs were so tired after that race that I don't know, it was just like different. Like I felt super fast going through it with the last 2 hurdles not being as fast, which is normal. But I felt like strong and happy with how I ran. And then seeing the time was super excited that I was at 43.99.
I would have cried if it was 44 flat, if that's what we ended on. We were so close to making state. The qualifying time, they take the top 6 or 43.78, which you were so close to. But I think as a coach, I was just so happy with how you executed everything that we had practiced, that you really left it all out there, and there was nothing left in my brain going, oh, if she had only done this, then she would have gotten this. You did it. You did it all. So how did that feel for you as well?
Yeah, I think it was like sad not getting to go to state, but also really a good way to like end it, tie up the season, is that like PRing in your last race that you'll run, like that's pretty perfect.
Absolutely perfect. And what a contrast from last year to where you were just, your legs were just cooked. They were so done by the time you had gotten to those CIF meets, and everything came together at that moment. And it just was so cool to just see that end on a huge PR. All of the trials and the struggles that we went through this season. I say we, but it's you, and as coaches, we're so invested in your success, and we have to look at what we're doing to make sure that we're not hurting your performance. And then you were just like always there, like putting in the work and stuff. So there's no one else we would have rather helped get to this point, besides all the other teammates, of course. But just to see you have this kind of pressure and the struggle through the beginning of season to where you putting it all out there when it really mattered was just really cool to see. You are now second all-time fastest to ever come through this high school, which is huge, because I think I know you're wanting to break the record, and as a coach, there's no one else I would want to break my record other than someone else that I had helped to get there. But like I said, you have accomplished so much more than any other Mission Viejo track and field athlete to ever come through this school, just being so versatile in so many different events. So all of this success has led you to continue on running. And where are you going? And tell us your plans for the fall and the next few years.
Yeah, I'm super excited to go to Boise State to keep running and hurdling. We'll see about the 100 hurdles, but try the 400 hurdles.
Yes. So what drew you to Boise State, and what are you looking to study, and kind of career-wise, where do you see everything going?
So looking at schools that were in my time range, I really wanted a bigger school atmosphere. Mm-hmm. So Boise definitely fit that. They have a great football program, and I love watching football, so I'm like, that'll be super fun. But also a great track program, and they're transitioning into more of a sprint-focused, hurdle-focused program, along with, after my first year, they're going to move into the Pac-12, which will be
that's
fun.
Right. You've got a little strategy going in here. I think that's awesome. What are you most excited about running collegiately and continuing your career?
Yeah, I just think it's going to be different because it is a different event from the 300 hurdles.
Right.
But meeting new people, going to different meets and stuff like that, and also getting to try indoor, which I've wanted to do for like a couple of years. So I'm super excited to try these new events.
Being in Boise, you'll have plenty of indoor meets to compete in, and we can't wait to see what you do. Okay, wrap this up. who has been really instrumental like in your journey, whether it's coaches, family, teammates, who have been your people to like help you get to this point?
Yeah, I think all of the above, like my family for, helping me with getting to the track meets and knowing that I don't like to talk to my family very much at the track meets.
So good.
Giving me that respectful bit of distance until the end of the meet. Yeah, my teammates, because I don't think I could have gotten through the Murder Monday workouts if I was, didn't really like the environment or have any friends. And my coaches also, of course, for like giving me the correct workouts and spending so much time making sure I'm running the right events and hitting the right times at the right time. So
that is awesome. Last question. What's some advice you have for younger athletes on this team? And what does track and field mean to you?
Oh, yeah. I think you just have to keep focused on the positive parts, because you get too down on yourself. It's really hard to come out of that. It was very hard for me in the beginning of the season, not hitting those times, but just like believing in yourself and the coaches to make sure that you'll get where you want to go. And although it's hard with track not being as much of a team sport unless you're in a relay, just making sure they carry through that like team environment through team bondings or having fun, anything but a baton relay practices.
Yeah.
I really like how it's very competitive and that like everybody's racing themselves but also racing each other, where the environment of even like who you're competing against is very positive. Like before you even get on the line, people are chatting and like, oh, good luck and all that stuff. That it's different from some of the other sports I've done, which you don't really talk to the competition.
Right.
So yeah, it's definitely an interesting, welcoming environment, which I think was really cool and just a good way to approach life. If you don't really know people, just say hi.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, also working as hard as you can to achieve your goals. There were plenty of hard workouts, but it was all worth it for that league finals and getting to CIF and all that.
Right. Oh, I love it. Love it so much. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to sit down and chat. I was so excited just to kind of run through your career in this past season. So good luck to you at Boise.
Thank you.
And thanks again.
Oh.
All right.